Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Just wanted to do a quick video real quick. I'm actually at my dad's garage today and I wanted to show you something that's pretty cool. So, you know, we're all in this to do, some car stuff, some hot rodding stuff. We're all car guys, trying to keep the spirit alive, so to speak, right? So I got my Barracuda, you guys got whatever you got, my dad's got his Satellite, and we're just doing what we can with what we got, right? So I wanted to show you something that to me is like, the preservation of the spirit of hot rodding in the modern time, right? So fuel injection and turbos and superchargers and all that, that's fine and that's really cool. But there's even some old school stuff that's still kind of, well, let me just show you what I'm talking about.
Now this thing right here is an air cleaner. Now, Anthony, what is so important and what is so hot rod about a freaking air cleaner? An ugly one at that, right? Well, let me tell you, this thing isn't no ordinary air cleaner. Now, it's got your dual snorkels like, most stock things had in the 60s and the 70s, and even in the 80s. And this thing, the reason it's so important or so, special at this case, and with all this stuff here, I'll explain all of this nonsense in a minute, is let me flip it over. Now, for you young guys, you'll know immediately what that is. Even some of your old guys. It's carbon fiber. Why is the filter cover, or this filter assembly, carbon fiber? And what's with that little dimple there, right? Well, what I mean by hot rodding is we're still trying to get as much efficiency as far as airflow, performance, all that stuff out of this old archaic technology as much as possible. And let me show you what we got going on over here. So now you've seen this engine in the last video where we did this Satellite here, right? Let me back up that Satellite. And this is a 360 cubic inch or 5.9 liter V8, right? And now this still runs on a carburetor, old school technology, right? But there's still some stuff you can do to this that is kind of modern in a way. Now, what I mean by that is we can apply modern ideas to this old stuff. Let me explain. So you see this hose right here, this thing going into this bonnet, this air enclosure, and you see how it has one on each side. You got one going this way, one going that way into the fenders. Now, normally in a stock car, these would go into the fender and pretty much stop there. There'd be an opening down here somewhere inside the inner fender, and that would be your cold air, right? Yay, cold air. Well, not exactly. So what we're doing is here, this goes into here. Now, let me transition to the bottom here. In there is a tube. And that tube, it's kind of dark in there, but you see it follow, you see the brackets? Just follow down, follow into the front, see how it dips down and into the front? Well, let's follow that to the front here. Now, I covered some of this in the review of the vehicle, but you see that black tube? I don't know if you can see it from here. There it is. You see that valve, that black tube? That goes all the way into there. And there's one per side. So there's one over here, there's one here. Now, it goes into this big, air box assembly. And inside there's a filter and all that stuff like you normally would have. So this works pretty good, actually. This works really well. And the reason for that is obviously a little bit of ram air, right? But we're trying to get primarily the colder air, the fresher air from the outside instead of getting air from the in here and it's hot and stuff. That's also why you'll notice these pipes right here are wrapped in sort of like this insulative material. That right there is obviously to insulate from heat further. And it's all the things like tricks that we're trying to do to keep that air as cold, right, as possible. So yeah, it's just more stuff added to that to try to assist with the keeping the air as cool as possible. Now, you guys that understand carburetors will know that a carburetor has to get to a certain operating temperature to function correctly so that the fuel atomizes with the air and it does as efficient a job as possible to get that mixture correct, right? Well, there's such a thing as too much heat. And so a lot of times what happens is if it's a hot day or something and this isn't tuned correctly or there's too much heat underneath the hood here, right? Because there's really nowhere for the heat to go. You end up getting something called hydrolocking or thermal locking, sorry. And so the thermal locking pretty much prevents, you get like hard starts, right? Or it superheats the fuel and the air, and so you end up getting pre-detonation. You get knocking and pinging, so to speak, and so you got to retard the timing because the fuel's too hot. the air's too hot. It's too much heat going on inside the cylinders in there, and so you get an detonation, and so now you got to retard the timing, losing performance. Well, we want to retain as much performance as possible, maybe even gain some performance. So what do? Well, yes, there is a set temperature that this needs to function within, but we want to keep it in that range of temperature, not above it. So we have to cool down the air as much as we can, right? So once we've reached operating temperature, we want to make sure that the air stays within a reasonable temperature. 160 degrees, what I mean. 170 degrees is pretty good. Even 180 is fine. But sometimes the air in here can get up to 200 degrees. Then you start getting into problems. Now the air's super hot. It's causing pre-detonation or knocking and pinging. And now you got to retard the timing because it's just not working right. You're going to knock to hell. Now, this thing is made out of aluminum. And now it looks really cool. It looks really pretty. We like it and it works right now. And it's got a lot of volume of air. But it, ironically, is causing more of a problem because it's also helping superheat the air. So how do you fix that, Anthony? What's the point? Well, the point is that if we can make or use some sort of composite material, like, modern cars use plastic primarily for the tubes and for the air boxes and stuff. That's for that, right? To get as cold of an air as possible. So what can we do for that? I mean, we'd have to make that out of plastic or something, right? Well, let's go back to this ugly thing. It's carbon fiber. Well, it's a little bit better than plastic. It's a lot lighter. It's stronger. And because of the situation that it's in, the condition that it's in, and believe it or not, this is actually an improvement to how it was. When we first got it off of eBay for cheap. And it was used for someone who was racing a car, and hence the fact that it's carbon fiber and it's super light. Well, the idea was, cool, we're going to use this to insulate from heat. The carbon fiber will help insulate the air that's inside of there from the heat, the ambient heat of the car, right? And so now we're getting rid of that superheating problem that we're having with the air. Correct temperature air is fine. Super hot air, not fine. So we're trying to control that situation. Also, guys, the reason it's this ugly and the way it looks right now is because this is actually JB Weld. Now, believe it or not, this thing, when we got it, was sort of wrapped in this like weird thermal kind of adhesive and race car stuff to keep like heat away from it. Well, that doesn't look really pretty. And we're trying to make this look good as well, right? It's the whole thing where we're going to try to show it off. And this ain't a race car, so we're kind of trying to make it look nice. And yeah, we could have gone with, some sort of body filler, putty or something. He likes to work with JB Weld. He's kind of the JB Weld master in the family. So that's what he came up with, this JB Weld sort of filler. And as you can tell, he's been using it, to fill in weird spots. And you can tell right there when I get close to that's carbon fiber, but it's not perfect, right? So he's trying to kind of make it, smooth it out, make it look nice. So he's going to paint this and make it look pretty. So it's not going to look like this permanently. But this is just sort of midway the process. You guys are getting a backstage pass to what's going on, before the finished product. And now here's the second part to this. So that's the base. By the way, that's the stock air box right there. Now, some of you guys might understand some of this engineering, some of you won't, but I'll explain it a little bit as best I can. Mind you, I'm no engineer or scientist or anything. I just kind of know enough to get in trouble. But anyway, the air is supposed to go into these ports, right? So we're supposed to get air into here, goes into the air box. Now, once it's in the air box, this attempts to bring the air up and then shoot it back down, almost like a bit of a ramming effect. And this right here, this little interior diameter, is supposed to help straight out that air. Now, that's pretty cool and all, right? But they take it a step further. Because this is meant for racing applications, right? It's super engineered to do as an effective job as possible to straighten out the air, ramming the air in, doing what you can to get that extra mile, right? So see that little dimple, that kind of a funnel looking thing? That goes in here. And it further helps straighten out that air and sort of accelerate that air because it creates sort of like a Venturi effect in there. And so now you got sort of like a jet thing going on. And so now the air's pushing itself in there faster. And it's allowing for, more air, faster air, more performance, right? And now it's going to be cooler So you're going to get a lot more performance out of this than you would that. Now, like I said, that looks cool, but it's actually causing problems because it's inefficient at how it handles its air temperature. And that's what we're trying to do. Pretty much long story short, we're trying to control air temperature and how that relates to performance, as well as how that is going to basically allow us to get as much as possible out of this engine without busting the bank. Old school hot rodding stuff, applying new ideas to old school hot rodding. To that, on a later video, we're going to do a Bluetooth, that's right, Bluetooth distributor in this car. We're going to be able to control timing curves, ignition, all that stuff through a phone or a tablet. So that's going to be freaking cool. All right, guys, that's it. Just a short video. I wanted to go over a few things of what we're doing. I mean, it's always about the hobby, right? And doing what we can with the hobby. And to me, I thought this was pretty cool and interesting. A true hot rodder never stops hot rodding. That's it.
Also, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like the content that I'm putting out in the channel. And if you got other questions that you want to know about this car, my car, with the stuff that we're doing, that weird airbox that I talked about, let me know in the comments below, okay? And by the way, real quick, I am not sponsored by any of the stuff that we're doing here, any of the stuff that we're putting in here, nor is my father sponsored. Nobody's sponsored in any of this stuff. This is all out of pocket, so we're doing what we can, right? All right, see you guys next time.